my boss in the past that one CPQ cannot fit all need. We invested tens of $millions build a CPQ platform because of the lack of the current organization or the good enough organization to keep it up to date. Within 3 years, it went out of sync. Right? Market moved forward, product moved forward, CPQ is still 3 years behind. People just stopped using CPQ. Product managers are our biggest stakeholders. So current AI accuracy roughly sits between 60 to 70% max. That means that if I go that route and some overzealous people say, oh, I don't need CPQ, let's go AI, 30% to 40% chance they would send a wrong pricing out.
Hi, it's Daniel Kube here with Executive Conversations. And today we're lucky to have an old friend of mine, Reza Rehman, who is a long-time practitioner of configure, price, quote-to-cash pricing spreadsheets throughout his entire career. And he's seen a significant modernization of the technologies and has used multiple platforms across his history and has a really rich experience and knowledge he's going to share with us today. So really excited. And just a safe harbor statement, Reza is not a customer of ServicePath. By the same token, he's working with some of the largest CPQ vendors and pricing tools in the world based on his career. So Reza, welcome and thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you, Daniel. Is happy to be here in the call with you, right? Yeah, and it's nice to meet you again. We've known you for a long time.
Yeah. So Reza, when you and I actually, probably the best thing to start is just how did you start your career? Because you've been you have had basically a very dedicated focus to pricing optimization, configuration, and sales optimization. How did you get started, and tell us about your journey and what did you learn along the way, and how do you continually reapply the knowledge to new organizations you join?
Yeah, so I'll tell you the fun story. So when I was working in China, I was working for a telecommunication company, and suddenly my manager said, hey, I have a new CDMA product. Let's build a pricing spreadsheet. And then I found the magical thing called VBA, Visual Basic for Application for Excel. So we built a pricing spreadsheet. Then when I moved to Canada, then I worked in a commercial operations, and everywhere I went, people always asked me to build pricing spreadsheet. So roughly around 2010, when I was in GE, we were just started to roll out the digital transformation across all the GE businesses. And then an opportunity found a marvelous product called CPQ, called Oracle CPQ. At the point, it was called Big Machine. Then I thought, I've been using spreadsheet for 10 years. Now I have a cloud-based system that can do 10 times or 100 times or 1,000 times better thing that I do not have to worry about my price accuracy, the speed, the uses, or anything. So that's how I got hooked up on the CPQ. And that's where, because my early career spent in commercial world, and which is pretty much using the system, then you draw on my previous experience, and that's why it helps me come up with a better CPQ design and focus on the user side of the CPQ world. That's how I ended up in the whole CPQ and Quote-to-Cash world.
Yeah. So you basically, you went super spreadsheet, you went VBA from Excel. You know, it'd be really interesting to sort of understand. I'm sure at GE spreadsheets still exist.
They still exist everywhere.
So how do you combat that, or how do you embrace them?
So one of the role I have wherever I go, in GE or outside, as soon as I see them spreadsheet, my first thing I try to do, how do I get rid of them, right? And move them to CPQ. It's always a journey because every spreadsheet has different purpose and every spreadsheet has a different value to it. There's a long story behind it. But in the end, whenever I say spreadsheet, I immediately know the problem is that price accuracy is always a problem. Keeping it up to date, modularity, control of core data, and accuracy of data, then the digital thread, all those problems come. So we just finished in last 1 year in my current job, our team has finished migrating around 8 spreadsheets into CPQ. And that's the way to go in the world. Spreadsheet, we call it as when a new product comes in and people don't know what to do, how to quote, maybe spreadsheet is okay. Over time, the product matures, the sales process matures, and say it's time to move out of spreadsheet to something better, like a CPQ system, right? Either it's a software, either it's a hardware or services. There's always something in the market that can do better job than a spreadsheet can do.
So, Rez, I know you've worked with multiple tools, Oracle being one of them, Salesforce being others. Do you see differences or specializations? You know, kind of where we play. We're more in the tech-enabled business world. Where do you see the space going? Are there is it going to be focused on verticals now, or, given the fact that, or, is there going to be one product that suits many? Like, what's your experience been to date?
So I've worked with multiple CPQ platforms. Is one of my job is to continuously evaluate market to find the right CPQ platform for business need. What I found is that Oracle CPQs, SAP CPQ, Konga CPQ, Salesforce CPQ, then servicePath, right? Your product. Everything has a position in the market. So there is, I used to tell my boss in the past that one CPQ cannot fit all need, right? If it's a configure to quote to price, maybe Oracle CPQ works for a heavy industry side, the enterprise side of the right heavy volume complex logic. But if it's a service oriented, maybe servicePath. If it's a SAP driven system, they have a variant configurator, maybe SAP CPQ. There is a CPQ platform I have seen that people don't even know about, like called FPX or IntelliQuip, specific CPQ built to measure the fluid velocity or fluid temperature of a product. Oracle CPQ cannot do that. We'd have to have a specific specialized CPQ for it. So the way I see the market would go, right, at higher level, the market competitors will always be there. They are the broadest category, meet the broadest sizes of the world in the industry, but there will always be niche CPQs. Niche CPQs will always be there specific for the vertical markets we have, like the manufacturing or engineering or the services. There always be some need for it, right? It's a CPQ doesn't one system fits all. It just doesn't work. Yeah.
So given you're someone who's a student of quote-to-cash and revenue lifecycle management, and you mentioned, one of your mandates or one of your KPIs for your own performance is staying abreast of the developments in the CPQ world. How do you do that? Who do you follow? Like, what analysts do you read? Like, how do you stay out on top of it?
So I pretty much follow almost all the bigger mover and shakers in the CPQ world who, for example, the people who started the big machine, they are still in my group. I read their notes. I read your notes, Daniel, right? Then I read the other people who are the very active in CPQ world, then also the Gartner reports to find out where the market is going. So CPQ is something, right? The product we have now is completely different what I first rolled out 15 years back, right? So I tell my kids too that either you be always up to the speed, how the industry going, how the software is changing, how the market changing, or you fall behind. It's a continuous learning. So LinkedIn is one area, Gartner report and news in other areas, and the product marketing materials is the third source that I generally follow to be on top of the market.
So Reza, I would love, like a lot of people who watch us are practitioners or in the trenches doing CPQ and constantly looking for tips and tricks on how to improve their environments. And I know you've done several global launches. Like what if you could say your top 3 learnings from those launches, like how to make them successful? Because it's hard. It's really hard because CPQ touches so many different systems. What would you share to someone who's just getting started with their first? And what would be some tips and guidance you would give them?
So the first thing as a hard learn, right? Many times that it happens that someone somewhere decides to roll out a CPQ, and that decision starts, the ball starts rolling. Then we get a consulting company and we build a CPQ and roll out. But what I learned the hard way that rolling out CPQ is just step one. There's making the CPQ work is the hardest part. So the business can continuously recognize revenue. Benefit out of it, and more ROI gets from CPQ, keeps the CPQ going. So the first recommendation always is to first understand the business process. So whenever I do, even in my current job, even before starting the program, what I did is to first get all the business people in a room get in a whiteboard and map out their sales process first, wing to wing. And that tells us where are their pain points, what CPQ capabilities we would need to mitigate those pain points. Then those pain points become our benefit story. And when we deliver the CPQ, it's much easier for us to show that yes, CPQ finally achieved to mitigate their pain points. The second piece is the business focus. CPQ is an IT tool or technology tool, but the purpose is to serve the business. So we have to listen to the business. We have to understand and be open-minded and see what they need. Sometimes it's harder to accept the fact what they say because sometimes they ask for stuff that literally not possible. And like, for example, in my one business stakeholder tell me, I want to be able to submit 10,000 lines to my ERP. Okay, 10,000 line will turn into 30,000 line. Which system in the world can do it, right? So you have to...
You're talking to one, by the way. We're good at large quotes.
Right. It's not all the system can achieve it, right? What your team software can achieve it. And there are a lot of things in it. So you have to listen to them that why they want 10,000 lines, what the business case for it. And if the current system cannot do it, what's our mitigation plan? Business need is something where the CPQ comes in. And we have to mitigate the CPQ. We have to mitigate the business need for it. The third one is the flexibility, right? In the old days, we used to have the SDLC for waterfall, right? My first CPQ project was waterfall, and it was not very successful because they collected requirements, they went to close the door. After 6 months, they came out of the door, say, here, your CPQ, and it doesn't do anything, right?
So brush their hands off and say, there you go.
It's yours now, your problem. So since then, I say, yep, no, thank you. No more waterfall. Always agile. Show the business user as we build, get their feedback up front so we can tweak it. And with customer or the users don't have any culture shock and say, no, I asked for something. I asked for a apple and you are giving me an orange and expect me to be happy about it. It just doesn't work that way. It's the business who has to accept it. So those are the 3-1, Daniel, if it helps.
That's great. Sorry, did you have another one you wanted to share, Reza?
No. I have 3.
No, I was just because I totally understand. Like, hey, here you go, because we kind of call that the IT death spiral. So that the problem is a lot of CPQs are really technical and they require technical resources to support and install. So we pride ourselves on the ability to empower the business user to do the configuration. And that pattern you're talking we say basically the organization begins to get in a death spin, because the challenge is if it's only supported by IT and the BU has no understanding of supporting the application, IT gets busy on their next project. And it gets longer and longer between update or support cycles to update the CPQ, right? So it's a real terrible situation. And then ultimately, the CPQ is no longer trusted, so people stop using it. They revert to spreadsheets, and this cycle repeats itself. But on that note, so I don't put words in your mouth, but it seems like you're also a big believer in having a team that continues to persist and exist with the implementation. Maybe if you could talk about that, and because the other thing within CPQ, no business is static, right? So there's constant change in a product portfolio, products end of life, new products or partners come in. Like, how do you recommend people address that constant change?
So as I mentioned, right, CPQ, when I roll out CPQ, that's an investment, right? And investment is done. The business would always like to say, what's my return on investment? And return on investment comes from continuous support and maintenance of the CPQ. And if I have heard a very hard story where I've seen that we invested tens of $millions build a CPQ platform because of the lack of the current organization or the good enough organization to keep it up to date. Within 3 years, it went out of sync, right? Gotcha. Market moved forward, product moved forward, CPQ is still 3 years behind. People just stopped using CPQ. That's what it happens, right? Over and over, we see it in a lot of companies. What I do recommend is that when we start a CPQ program, even before we finish delivery, we always have to build up an ecosystem to support the system even after the vendor or the partner goes away and say they're giving us the key to the car, and the car needs to be maintained over time, and it has to run. Otherwise, the one day the car will break down. So generally, I always go for always have to be a business owner, a designated person who owns the CPQ, who is the focal point for business to come when they have a question, who monitors and keep the system updated from business perspective. Then we need a delivery team who would convert the business requirements into actual CPQ configuration. Now, this is because I have dealt with the complex CPQ platform. There is always an IT team or delivery team to do that. There are CPQs like yours we have where business can manage too, but there has to be someone to do it, either business or IT there. Then we also need, as I mentioned, that I'm a big fan of the Agile, right? The Scrum Master to actually make sure that things are in sync, that whatever business wants, like today, one of my stakeholder came back and said, okay, I told you I need it 3 weeks back, where it is. I could easily look up at my system and say, okay, you will see it in your UAT next week, right? That kind of visibility business needs, the stakeholders need before they say, yep, nope, it's not working out for me, right? And then we also, the one thing we always forget is the quality. There has to be a good quality team who continuously monitor and make sure that our product and pricing and configuration and everything going out to the market is actually accurate. More and more, we are seeing CPQ getting exposed to the partners, exposed to the customers, and there is a little or no chance of errors there. If there's an error, business suffers a lot. So the last one, I would always say we always need to have a quality team in the whole ecosystem to make sure that the CPQ is supported properly.
So in that situation, are you relying on the business unit to do like a lot of your testing of the final result? Like how do you actually roll out to make sure you're getting that accuracy and strong governance? Like what's your quality process look like?
There's the process that we generally follow, right? The requirements, the demand, that what I want. This want comes from business, right? And then when we know what business want, then so how do I get it done? This how comes from our solution architects, technical architects, business analysts, whoever, right? And when is built, that's our developer. Then the first layer of testing is done by our QA team, which ensures that what business wanted and what my developer has delivered are the same or not? Are there more things? I fixed a screw here. Did I break another screw somewhere else? Which is a very common in some of the CPQ platforms we have seen. And that's where the quality, even if it before gets to business, then the last testing is always business. The person who said, I wanted an apple, and I handed him or her an apple, is he or she is happy with the apple? Is this taste the right way, or is it just sour, right?
Or is it a banana?
Or is it turning into a banana with apple? Anything is possible. That person has to find out. And whatever I learned very hard way, as an IT team, as a CPQ developer, sometimes I think I am right, and I'm 100% sure I am right. But as soon as the person who wants it and sees it, that person might not find it's right anymore. And I cannot release it or go live with it or hand it up and wash my hand off with until that person said, yes, this is exactly what they want. CPQ is a business-focused tool, right? And unlike some other platform like ERP, we have a choice. We do not have choice. We have to go through ERP. CPQ, a lot of time people have choices, and that's why keeping the business happy, the user happy is key. And this quality testing, upfront quality testing helps us out.
I'm sure the leadership at in your current company, are they big believers in getting the first quote out? Is that one of the reasons why they make these investments, and the responsiveness is essential? And we are always big believers in, like, generally speaking, in the enterprise, the first quote is always modified. So it's the ability to quickly get out the second quote and the revisions and track all that stuff. Where do you view that sort of hierarchy?
So it depends business to business, right? In my current business unit, we have 3 business units in the current business. And we have the complex ones, where is what you said is the they go through at least 2 to 3 revision before the quote is finalized, turned into order. Then I have a short cycle quotes, which means that whatever I'm shooting out, and 90% chance that would turn into order without any revision. So it depends on the market and product complexity and other stuff. So more the complex the product is, more revision we have to do to the quote to get it done. So that's why that another thing that I look into the CPQ, right? When I sent out an RFP 2 years back for another CPQ platform, one thing I asked is that, does the CPQ support revisions? Because I have a business unit that goes through multiple iterations before the quote is finalized, right? Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I hope that answered your question. Right?
Yeah,
It's
yeah, for
all
sure.
depends.
So, one key stakeholder who you haven't mentioned in the discussion, I'd love to get your thoughts on, are the product manager. Because in our world, the product manager is heavily involved because they're constantly launching new solutions. And, that velocity and agility is essential, especially in today's day and age. Like, how do you envision, or what is your experience, and what have you learned on how to take care of that stakeholder group based on your history?
Very good point, right? Product managers are our biggest stakeholders, in addition to the sales who are the users. So product managers pretty much define what goes into CPQ, how the configuration logic works. Pricing logic potentially come from pricing leaders, but product managers pretty much define everything. We have a very strong relationship with product managers. I have a dedicated people and dedicated session with product managers, and to make sure that we already know even before it comes to us. Say that depending on the CPQ platform, sometimes product manager comes to us and say, I need to have a specific configurator available to market within 3 weeks. Sometimes we can make it work. Sometimes it's so complex, so I need 6 weeks for it. So sooner I learn their plan, better I could prepare the capacity in our team to deliver it. Now, at this moment, we are rolling out new CPQ platforms, and I have a call with our VP of Product Management tomorrow to give an update and also talk about some of the systems that they rolled out 10 years back. I'm going to question them and ask them that, are they still using it? Do they really need to convert into another CPQ platform if nobody created another quote for 10 years?
Yeah.
Product, you are 100% right, the product changes so frequently, and that is why waterfall is never a good idea for CPQ, because by the time waterfall is done, good chance that the product is already outdated.
Exactly. Yeah, for sure. Reza, so I guess what would you say are some of the attributes of the best product managers you have seen? And I've got some ideas I'd love to share, but ultimately to make the CPQ as successful as possible, do you have any thoughts there? Like, what are some key success factors?
Yeah, so the best product managers I have seen are really helpful in making CPQ successful. They actually work hand in hand with us. They understand how their product is configured. They have a long-term strategy and long-term vision and idea how to make it work. For example, when I have a specific product managers that our team love to have talk to them, because they sit down, they work together, they plan it out. This is exactly how I configure a product. This is exactly how I want to have the output of the product. And then I'm always ready to test it out with you, right? And this is a very helpful, because when the product manager is not engaged, that means the delivery team or the people who are managing CPQ had to guess. And guess is very bad, right? Half of the time guesses are wrong. So engage product manager and available product manager who are willing to work with us with the CPQ team on a daily basis or regular basis or be available to us are the best ones to work with. So what's your point, Daniel? What do you think is
Well, I think that's important, like working with the team doing the delivery. In our case, it's normally the BU, like the analysts within the BU. But the ones that we've seen that are ultimately the best are the ones that also work really closely with the sales team to test out how easy it is to build a quote and how clear it is to get the right solution. Because that's one of the things we find, which is always interesting. There's this huge separation when a CPQ project starts in the ivory tower and it's forced down upon the salesperson who has no clue it's coming and they're used to doing it a certain way. And there's much better ways to have that transition and engagement, and there are really bad ways. And unfortunately, we've seen both. I wish we could say all of our implementations, the product manager and the executive, really go to the coal face and understand how the sales team sell. If the sales team hates using the solution, they'll try to find ways to sabotage it, go back to spreadsheets. So it's I'm sure you've seen it, right? And to your point that you made earlier, sometimes we don't understand some of the nuances that the sales teams face, right? So that feedback or sitting next to them while they're actually doing a quote or selling or talking to a prospect. Or for example, you mentioned a couple of other scenarios, like headless is now really taking off. So the ability for someone to self-serve, someone going through and actually pretending to be a customer on the portal, trying to source a product. Yeah, because a lot of the complexity, like for example, in our world, we have lots of customers who have multiple products they support from partners. So they have their own catalog of products, but they also assemble their product with partner inputs. Like, for example, HP, Dell, you name it, Unisys, whatever, AI agents, GPTs, or whatever, combining solutions and products all to one. And each one of those vendors can have a very different experience on the input. And unless you've gone through that myriad, it's normally going to crash and fail. And so that testing is super important, especially for the end user, we find, and a savvy product manager. And the interesting thing about it, the one thing we found is product managers generally are incented by the success of their projects. And they're strongly aligned on that metric to get the sales team to sell their product. And the easier they make it, the better it will be generally.
Definitely. So for the product, right, their success measure comes on how much they are selling. If they don't sell, right? And so that's why I've seen that the product managers who adopted CPQ in a way together with the sales team, as we have mentioned, they have better success in their revenue because they make it easy to sell and easy for customer to buy, easy for us to support customers, wing to wing, end to end, right? And easy for them to run report on it too. And
and along that lines, I'm sure your big solutions piece, a lot of our deals generally in the past have had a sales engineer involved because they're technical solutions. And so what we try to do is harvest the knowledge in the SE's heads to create configurators where the business user or the salesperson is just asking simple questions to pull out the knowledge that allows the solution to self-configure under the covers. Because then it's really, really easy. And you also free up the sales engineers to focus on other more important projects or more bringing new products to life. But it's the ability to use a configurator, and it sounds like a lot of your stuff is like one time, P times Q, but I'm sure your more complex solutions have interesting configurators built into them.
Yeah, they do. So fastest one I have seen is a very interesting one. We have roughly quote 50,000 orders a year. And it's so simple because external like partners and people, channel partners and stuff, resellers, they come to CPQ, they know exactly what they want. Everything is set up for them. They just go and see it and place order and done with it. Then we have the more complex one that it has to go through 2 months of negotiation with customer. There's that we just made sure they don't see each other in CPQ world, segment it properly. So partner don't get scared by the complex stuff and complex people don't get frustrated by too simple stuff.
Yeah, it's a really hard world to be in both camps, but yes, for sure. Absolutely. So Reza, I mean, we talked about like some of your key findings about how you support and keep a program alive, and basically having a dedicated team like a Scrum Master is a really great idea to make sure that there's a cadence to the rigor of the support and monitoring of the solution. But as the world like leverages all these interesting new AI tools, do you have any thoughts on how AI can be applied or where you see potential real risks or real opportunities?
AI has been a buzzword, right? And everyone talking about AI in CPQ, AI in Quote-to-Cash, AI everywhere. And just like many companies, we are trying to find out where the best we can utilize AI. Now, when I looked at the Quote-to-Cash world, right, the AI could be, there are definitely, we have to be cautious on it. There is a very good solution to it. For example, I'll give you my first CPQ. I had to convert roughly around 100 pages of spec and build up a guided selling that had to go through 200 pages of Excel to build up that guided selling, right? Wow. Now, in the AI, we could do it faster. We don't even have to worry much, right? As long as we teach the right rules for AI to know that, okay, this screw goes with this nut, and this is the screwdriver they can use. And that makes life much easier if we go that way. At the same time, I have seen people saying that, okay, you don't even need a CPQ because AI can come up with the quote and price. Then I got interested in it, and then I dug out a little bit. So current AI accuracy roughly sits between 60 to 70% max. That means that if I go that route and some overzealous people say, oh, I don't need CPQ, let's go AI, 30% to 40% chance they would send a wrong pricing out. All right. So I see there's a lot of value in AI in guided selling and CPQ maintenance and the creating quote summary document like Oracle CPQ rolling out or some other
Redwood.
CPQ like Logic.io thinking, right?
Yeah.
But the backend engine, where we do not have a tolerance for more than 0.01% errors, I am not seeing, at least at the moment, AI is changing so fast, maybe it will change something next year, right? It's I think that due diligence still need to be there in the system somewhere, right? So the business doesn't lose money.
Yeah, our back end is now AI native, so we have the ability to do vector search and all that kind of stuff. And so but at the same time, we believe like the probabilistic models, to your point, that relative accuracy of 60 or 70% can put you out of business. However, if it's in a paragraph describing a product or a summary of some transactions and it's off, like it's using wrong syntax, that's okay. But when it comes to pricing and configuration logic, that's where you need 100% accuracy or 5 nines. And the reason being, as you know, like if you don't have the right price, you're going to lose money or you're going to lose a deal because it's too expensive and you priced it wrong. Or you misconfigure a solution and it doesn't work and then you damage your reputation. You have to bring back product. Like that transaction becomes very expensive all of a sudden. So we believe it's a marriage between deterministic and probabilistic.
Right.
Because we're really excited about what AI can do. However, that probability, the pricing has to be 100% accurate. And the other big challenge on a complex deal is governance, as you know. And the traceability of AI, especially for something that's complex, like think of your 30,000 line quote or 10,000 line quote, is really, really hard. And to have audit trails and when someone did something or how something was changed is really, really important. Is not going to say, oh, we'll buy a product without audit trails. It's okay. No, they're going to say, we need to know that we can sue if they screw up.
Okay, another point I will tell you about AI that has been nagging us a little bit and is the copyright, right? IP, intellectual property. Let's say I have, and this came in if I look at the days when I started to build spreadsheet, right? They used to give me 100 pages long specification and say, okay, let's build a configuration tool out of it. This 100-page specification is the company intellectual property. And when I do AI, I have to send that data. I have to load the data somewhere. And I cannot let that data go outside the company firewall. That means I have to have infrastructure within the company to ingest the data and even within the company, keep it hidden and secret. Not sure how small companies could handle it because as soon as a public AI is like ChatGPT or stuff, Gemini, whatever you put them, it becomes a public knowledge right away, right? So
even with the do not train mandates, I agree. Like people are very sensitive. I mean, there are the abilities now to have air-gapped instances of your AI engine. Like who recently ChatGPT released their standalone instance you can download and put in your own server, which is kind of cool. And there's all the open source tools. So there are venues, but yeah, for sure. But it adds a new level of complexity for sure. So Reza, my career mentors and people who have helped guide me and, shape me to become the person that I am. Who were some of your mentors and what did they teach you? And what are some of the rules that you continually or learnings that you continually reapply in your current world?
So, yeah, of course, we always need a mentor. So my mentor who helped me get started in this whole CPQ journey was a lean expert, right? And he retired already and he moved on. But for the first 5-6 years, he helped me understood the value of value-driven approach. Everything has to be lean. Everything has to have a value-driven approach that I always use. Yeah, whenever someone comes to me that I want to change something, so my first question is that what value I'm business getting out of it. Not going to change something just because someone just thought about it in their dream. That value-driven approach is just engraved in my brain, that everything I do, in the work, right, I try to find out that what the value is coming. Am I doing the best possible lean way so that minimizing the waste, maximizing the throughput of it? And in the other world, right, in the business side, there are a lot of people, the business stakeholders, they help me, they guide me and answer my questions. I grumble at them sometimes. But every job has challenges, so we grumble each other, but it's okay. They help us, right? There's an emotional guidance is always there. My manager, who has been, I know, for 10 years too, who is great too, right? It's sometimes I tell my Uri that he one day would get tired of me grumbling, but that's the thing, right? It's the communication and the guidance I get that's help me out in avoiding mistakes before it becomes a bigger problem.
Yeah. So, I mean, you're really part of RevOps, even though you're a purist in the sort of quote-to-cash world. But, for someone who wants to get into the field, what would you recommend they do? Like lean's a great thing, right? I mean, Domaic, you mentioned Domaic earlier in the conversation I picked up on. And steps, what would be some of the pre-trainings, or someone who's an existing practitioner that they could really help? I think Lean or Six Sigma, for example, the precursor, would be really valuable skills to understand the impact. Any other sort of suggestions on how someone can get started and what would add a lot of value to their career?
Yeah, definitely. So the CPQ, the purpose of CPQ is to optimize and automate or digitally transform sales process into end-to-end quote-to-cash journey for sales team and revenue team, right? So anyone, what I learned, that ability to talk to business and understand and map out their sales process is a big help. This is anyone I hired, I always ask the first question: have you mapped out any sales process in your life? And I try to teach people in my team to help them do that. When they map out the sales process, that helps them find out that where they can use lean principle or other principles we have to optimize the process through going into CPQ tool. Then the next thing comes to that how a technology, the actual developers who learn it. But I built a career plan for the developers too, so they can, okay, you are developing now because you got hired from the university and only thing you know how to code a Oracle CPQ or SAP CPQ or Aptos. But what would you do in 5 years or 10 years or 15 years, right? This is where it comes into that. Slowly trying to learn business process, try to map out and find out the every code I am writing, how it's helping them. This connection is very important. For more people learn, it is going to help them in longer term, right? As we are getting old, Daniel, like you and me, we focus a lot on strategy, on the long-term goal and long-term vision. And the way we don't depend on how many codes we write. We depend on the codes we are writing, how it's going to help business in long term. That connection we can establish. So that's the thing that I recommend people coming into this industry to slowly start to learn that what they are doing is connecting to the business goals in longer term.
So, one of the big challenges with the enterprise, where you and I both live, is integrations into legacy systems and new systems. Have you seen a best practice that you think is, that you would love just to replicate in every organization you go to? Like, how do you deal with legacy? Because I mean, any organization that's successful generally grows really fast and buys a lot of stuff, or they acquire a bunch of companies with a whole bunch of different systems. Like, have you mitigated those in the companies that you worked?
So I'm going to tell you overall, right? Not about CPQ. Anytime we go, any company we work for, we always see that potentially they have hundreds and maybe thousands of software they have built. As they grow, they found a need, they build. They bought the software, and over time, they have grown a huge inventory of software they are spending money on. That potentially includes CPQ as well. So what I have been using, the Gartner methodology called time that I have used in the past, is that every software we evaluate, am I going to terminate it? Am I going to continue invest in it? I'm going to manage it, or I'm going to do something about it. And how we designate it. We build up a standard questionnaire to talk to the business stakeholder and figure out what they're using legacy system for. Are they getting ROI out of it, or is it too old to use it? If there's a comparable system in the market, it's a good one. I will tell you is that once well-built CPQ platform can take care of multiple systems. It can take care of Excel spreadsheet. It can take care of the pricing engine, analytics engine, bunch of things a well CPQ platform can take care of, support it. That means that we can retire a few other simple older software legacy system with a new system, as long as I can find a way to migrate the data to the new systems. Now, connecting to the old system is it's a painful, Daniel. It's painful, right? Yeah, right. I had a system that we had used Dell Boomi. At this point, it was Dell Boomi. We had tried to use Boomi for it, but whatever we try, it just doesn't work because the system was built using like old language, like 30 years back. Nobody knows how to use it, right? It's connection is connecting to the legacy system is very painful. There is no one way solution. But what I did find interesting is that slowly I am very big fan of middleware now, right?
Yes.
Many CPQ will say, I have all the API you need, but the problem is that does the other system has all the API we need? And this is where the middleware come.
Yeah, we use an iPaaS like Workato, but I mean the same sort of thing. Integration is key and crucial, especially like, for example, in even AI with the MCP layer. So Reza, I would love to get your thoughts. So a lot of people who are following us are Salesforce customers. Salesforce CPQ, as you know, is at end of sale, end of life. And so they're going down a path where they've been working with a system that's not been supported for a while. What would your advice be to them about the decision rubric? Should they move to Sales Cloud? Because Sales Cloud is not a simple flip the switch transformation. You actually have to start at ground zero again. How would you counsel organizations going down that path?
Very good question, right? It was a surprise and not a surprise that Salesforce decided not to sell new CPQ anymore, right? And I rolled out two of them, and I know that the challenges that Salesforce CPQ was facing, it's just not suitable for the enterprise. There are too many customization we had to invest in it. So my recommendation is to first look at the ROI. If the Salesforce business has invested in and it's been there for 3-4 years, that means good chance that they already achieved the ROI from the initial investment. Is slowly they need to start looking out. There are many CPQ stabilized platforms there that have been growing. Gartner keeps a track of it. For every types of market, there is something in the market. And which CPQ, if the CPQ Salesforce already saying they are not selling anymore, they did not do any upgrade for any significant change improvement for last 3-4 years, there is little chance that they are going to do anything on it ever again. So best is to go and slowly reevaluate their sales process, look at the market, see the new AI-driven systems we have in the market, new integrated systems we have in the market, and start building it up. Rolling out a CPQ, a year-long journey. Earlier they start, in better situation they would be, then suddenly finding that they have a dart in their system that doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. So Reza, I'd love to get your thoughts. So as you know, ServicePath, we're a best of breed. So we believe we're the best in class CPQ for technology service providers and tech-enabled businesses. Our sort of integration approach is we want to work with the best CRMs, the best ITSM, and the best billing platforms. Whereas there's also a stack play. For example, the platform you currently exist in is Oracle, and it's more of a stack. Vertically integrated top to bottom. Do you have a position on which you think is better for an enterprise stack, best of breed, or like how do you counsel someone making those decisions?
I would say that it all depends on what the business needs are. As I said, that no one CPQ fit all. So I would never say that Oracle CPQ can solve all the problem in the world, right? There is a definite, and actually I think Oracle is slowly moving their old ways of trying to have one, and this is potentially also Salesforce problem too, trying to have one vertical based CPQ, and instead of trying to find a flexible solution that may work on it. So I would say ones that you may, the idea that you had for servicePath potential is the one that's the growing path would be. Because if you look at AI, what is AI? It is flexible. It's not bound to a limited options. So more and more we'll find that the business is going to demand more flexible solution for CPQ, which is not hard coded or hard bound or very limited that they cannot grow anymore, right? As the business changes in dynamic world, right? So I would say that, yeah, business should look for more flexible solutions rather than trying to go for a very rigid solution that would only meet their current need and may not meet their need in 10 years from now.
Great. So I know we're going probably a bit over time, but Reza, I mean, it's rare. Like, I love the fact there's very few people who've worked in as many enterprise CPQ implementations as you have successfully and continue to build them out, which is great. Sometimes CPQ can be very frustrating, right? Because I mean, things happen, or you know, we get a whole price book, or there's a quantum change in the product direction of a company, and that's a lot of upgrading. What's your advice to an executive team, you know, that sometimes hits some rough patches with CPQ, like in the way they would, you know, discuss those changes with their board, their stakeholders, and the sales teams? Have you seen any better communication strategies, or what have you learned?
So I would say that the best suggestion I would give, say, don't lose hope and make a snap decision, right? This is what a lot of things happen, and things happen I have seen in GE and in GE and outside too, is that they looked at the CPQ and found that, okay, I'm not getting the desired benefit of the system, and it's becoming a cost headache for me. Let's shut it down. I would say the CPQs are very interesting system. They most of the time can adapt if we put enough effort in it and focus on it. And how to avoid it, right? One is the visibility. We always have to run KPI metrics out of CPQ and our dashboards and metrics that would give us a trend line that my revenue, so benefit number coming from the CPQ is always going up and not going down. And if we have this KPI dashboard built, and regardless which CPQ we do, modern CPQs all have that capability, together with CRM and data lake and Tableau and everything together, we can build it up. And that would always keep them always on the track that they can decide that if my line is flattening out on the ROI, that means time to do something actually. So I do not have to go and suddenly face a challenge that business stakeholders are happy with the system and it's too late to do anything on it.
Great advice. Well, Reza, thank you very much. And I'm sure we'll have other interviews in the future, because I mean, you continue to push the learning curve, which is great for me.
Yeah.
Anyways, really appreciate the time, and thank you very much.